You guys don't need to worry about me getting revenge from Diddy. I've got 3 moves that make sure he'll never be able to come after me or my family. First, I personally reached out to the victims' legal teams. The real reason he's not getting out is those buried cases behind the scenes. I provided legal funding for 7 victims who had been silent for years and brought in the top criminal attorneys in the country. Second, I bought up every potential post-release business deal he had lined up. I planned this 2 years in advance, so by the time he got sentenced and still had hope of getting out, every partner had already cut ties with him. Third, I don't just have evidence, I've got backups. This is an entire minefield that's been buried for 20 years. I uncovered every secret from the last 30 years. With testimonies from the victims, we interviewed over a dozen people he tricked, threatened, or violated. You think that's harsh? No, he destroyed other people's lives for decades. I'm just making sure he spends a few extra years in prison for it. I'm not afraid of his people, not afraid of his threats. I know he's still in there fantasizing about a comeback, but the truth is, he's never coming back.
I feel funny. Is this real life?
Yes, this is real life.
I feel crazy. The world is spinning around me.
Don't touch your stitches, Justin. Bieber, don't touch your stitches.
What's happening?
No.
Bieber, stop.
You have 4 eyes. I have 2 fingers. I have 3 fingers. Is this gonna last forever?
Justin, stop it.
Ah!
Yeah, you pressing Bieber.
Yeah.
Yo, what's up? Like I'm calling you, ain't answering.
Yeah, that was low.
That was weird,
That was crazy.
That was weird. They did not run through Bieber.
There was. Why you not answering your phone like
Yeah.
y'all?
What happens when an entire industry chooses to look away? For years, the warning signs were there. Awkward moments that should have raised alarms instead became memes. Uncomfortable footage that deserved investigation turned into internet jokes. Serious questions that needed answers were quietly buried. But silence has an expiration date. Now, 50 Cent's explosive documentary is tearing open a case the industry hoped would stay closed. And suddenly every forgotten clip, every dismissed whisper, every uncomfortable truth is back under the spotlight. At the center of it all, Diddy, a mogul who built empires and controlled careers. And Justin Bieber, a teenage sensation thrown into that world before anyone asked if he was ready. This isn't gossip. This isn't speculation. This is about power, silence, and what happens when too many people choose not to see what's right in front of them. The question is, how deep does this really go? Justin Bieber's story was sold as the ultimate dream. Discovered on YouTube, overnight sensation. Global superstar at 15, but fairy tales don't show what happens behind closed doors. Old footage reveals a different reality. A teenage boy surrounded by powerful adults, placed in rooms where influence mattered more than innocence, where boundaries didn't exist because no one was there to set them. These moments weren't hidden. They circulated publicly, but instead of concern, there was celebration. Instead of protection, there was exploitation disguised as opportunity. This wasn't one bad day. This was normalization. An entire system trained to look the other way while a child's youth was traded for profit. So when something goes wrong, when damage is done, who's really responsible? And more importantly, who saw it coming? "50 Cent has been saying it for years. While others stayed silent, he dropped hints, made jokes that weren't really jokes, called out behavior others ignored. Back then, people laughed it off, dismissed it as beef, rivalry, entertainment. But now, as federal investigations close in and allegations pile up, those same words hit different. Suddenly, what sounded like pettiness looks like warning signs. This reveals something uncomfortable. Warnings are easiest to ignore when they come from someone you've already decided not to trust. 50 wasn't just throwing shade. He was pointing at something real. The question is, how many others knew and said nothing? In the music industry, success isn't just about talent, it's about access. And for years, Diddy controlled the doors. He decided who got in, who got opportunities, who got close. And Justin Bieber, he was given that access early. Too early. This isn't about one relationship. It's about a pattern. A system where careers are built not through transparency, but through proximity to power. When gatekeepers hold all the keys, boundaries become negotiable. And young talent, they're left to navigate a world they don't understand with no real protection. So the question isn't just what happened behind closed doors. It's why the doors were even opened in the first place. Here's the uncomfortable truth. In systems built on power, no becomes a luxury most people can't afford. When your career depends on access, when progress is tied to proximity, boundaries start to disappear. Caution becomes weakness, self-protection becomes an obstacle. And the people with the least power, they're the ones expected to sacrifice the most. This isn't about isolated incidents. It's about environments where imbalance is normalized, where vulnerability is exploited. Where the real question isn't what happened, it's who was truly free to walk away. And when someone finally does speak up, what price do they pay? Long before Justin Bieber became a global icon, Usher walked the same path. As a teenager, he entered Diddy's world. Years later, he admitted that environment exposed him to adult pressures far too early, that history matters. Because when the same patterns repeat across different generations, coincidence becomes irrelevant. What remains is precedent, power and access passed forward without reform. If the warning signs were there once, why wasn't the system changed before the next young talent walked through those same doors? The uncomfortable truth is this: the industry didn't fail to see the problem. It chose not to fix it. As scrutiny around Diddy intensified, something telling happened. Former allies went silent. Industry veterans suddenly had nothing to say. Meanwhile, 50 Cent spoke louder. This exposed an unspoken code. Speaking up threatens relationships. Staying quiet protects them. Over time, loyalty and self-preservation become impossible to separate. It's not always fear, it's calculation. An environment where honesty competes with career survival. And when silence becomes the safest option, one question remains: can true accountability ever really exist? Justin Bieber has never publicly accused Diddy of criminal wrongdoing, but his openness about anxiety, instability, and emotional exhaustion adds depth to a far more complex story. He's spoken about being pushed under intense pressure at a young age, surrounded by adults with competing interests, trying to handle massive success without the guidance or tools needed to protect his well-being. That history doesn't offer easy answers, but it challenges simple explanations. It reveals the real cost of growing up too fast in an environment where protection was never clearly put first. This isn't about delivering legal judgment. It's about recognizing human impact. Harm doesn't always come with loud accusations or clear labels. Sometimes it appears years later as emotional weight, lost stability, or pain that was never given words. When pressure and exposure are built into a system, damage can happen without one dramatic moment. It builds quietly over time. And that leads to an uncomfortable question. If the problem is structural rather than isolated, why do we demand a single accusation before admitting that something clearly went wrong? When Diddy's case entered the federal courtroom, the conversation shifted from speculation to documented scrutiny. From rumors to evidence, procedure, and measurable outcomes, charges, rulings, and appeals set clear limits on what could responsibly be claimed. But they also widened the focus to what institutions themselves must confront. Courts are built to judge individual actions, not entire cultures, and that gap leaves deeper questions unresolved. The message is clear: what is legal is not always what is right, and formal closure does not erase systemic harm. So when a case ends on paper, the real question remains: does accountability stop there? Or is that where the conversation truly begins? The intersection of 50 Cent, Diddy, and Justin Bieber exposes a deeper truth about celebrity-driven systems. Where power rises, vulnerability fades, and accountability comes last, if it comes at all. Youth is sold as authenticity. Access is reframed as mentorship. And silence is rewarded as professionalism. This creates a culture where imbalance feels normal instead of alarming. This isn't a story built on certainty or single targets. It's about repeated conditions that keep producing the same fallout. And when the same structures cause the same damage again and again, one question becomes impossible to ignore. When does the system stop being background noise and start becoming the real issue?